many Murlocs, with them
Right.
all lodging at the bottom of Valera's deck. No, I think the team story thing made a lot of these players, like, made or broke them. It's like, get better or don't be on the team anymore. And a lot of players rose that challenge. I think the quality of the players over the 14 weeks of the event rose rapidly, I think, over the course of that time.
Right, right,
I
right.
think when we first started casting, we sort of we didn't poke fun at them as such, but we saw a lot of mistakes made. And towards the end, it's like, okay, these guys are getting good at Hearthstone now, really, truly good.
Exactly.
Uh,
So, looking at this match, it's obviously the aggressive shaman coming here from MieGod. Interesting to see that he has actually Swamp Ooze, acidic Swamp Ooze in this deck. But from the first four cards that we saw from Sleepy Shaman, it wasn't quite clear if it was Patron or Control Warrior. But now that we see Sylvanas looking like it's going to be Control Warrior, and there's a bit of misconception out there actually that Patron Warrior, it's good against aggro, so therefore it's good against aggressive shaman, and that's really just not the case. And so it's good for Sleepy Shaman's case, or for Sleepy Shaman's case, excuse me, that he has Control Warrior here.
And
Or
even though you can't see the Doomhammer at the moment, Harrison's a massive card in this matchup a lot of the time, as we see the Swampoos that people are favouring today. Harrison, obviously, one of the key cards to stop that really ridiculous Doomhammer
right,
that people can do, because they tend to save the Rockbiter weapon for the buff towards the end, and if it gets Harrison, you just lose so much damage.
right, and I mean we see a reasonable start here from MieGod. He's actually hitting the face with the crackle. Unfortunately, goes for 4, which is the second lowest there. But what are we going to see here from Sleepy Shaman? We might see his Shield Slam. Yeah, I do like this play. Your opponent clearly has no minions in hand, or else he would have played them. So I do like just killing out this Swamp Ooze right now. You're not going to see anything too much bigger than that Swamp Ooze. You've already seen the Totem Golem, obviously. As we see, it looks like... nope, not a main. I was going to say MieGod was immediately reaching for that, so look likely it could be... but no, it's just going to be that, as well as the Lava Shock and the Vinny Murgle. And wants to get either Druid or... oh, okay, just picked it as quickly as possible. Didn't even
We
get to
didn't
see
even
what...
get a chance to see it. Yeah, Warrior, obviously capable of grinding you down, so it takes the Warlock
Right.
to just keep the hate coming, because this deck's surprisingly good at keeping it coming even without the power. You take the power, it can just do so much damage out of nowhere.
Exactly. And that's why the Harrison is so important, right? Because that's one of the biggest forms of sustainable damage in this deck is, that Doomhammer. But with MieGod, with this, continuous draw that he has, basically, I was going to say before he picked it lightning quickly, as we see the non-kill from the Crackle onto this Armor Smith. But what I was going to say was that it's either Druid, Hunter, or Warlock for pretty obvious reasons. The Druid, because you combine that with the Doomhammer to get more damage. It's kind of like a Hunter Hero Power in that sense. Hunter Hero Power obvious, and obviously the Warlock Hero Power draws you more cards. Brawl coming up. You typically don't
Oh,
find, wow, wins the Brawl.
he did have 3 wins, in fairness, with that. That is executing hand, right?
Right, 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 yeah. So basically, anything that lived, he could have just executed. As we see the Doomhammer coming up, and MieGod's not going to be too happy when he sees that there's an answer right away for it.
I mean, the card draw is obviously huge, but it's kind of the bonus. Just killing this weapon and putting a 5/4 down is actually the huge thing here.
Exactly.
And drawing 6 cards, sure, we'll take it, but actually, that's the misleading bit. You don't play it for the 6 cards. That's just the nice icing on the cake.
And
Because this now just helps you stabilize.
exactly. You just want to get that thing out of the way, and it's just you don't really want to play the ooze because as the warrior you kind of need to draw those cards anyway. So nice to have the Harrison there, but there's the Rockbiter. Unfortunately, going to be able to draw even more cards here with his ancestral knowledge, but not too big of a deal, especially since he is the Warlock. But yeah, Sleepy Shaman discarding the Execute doesn't discard the Batch, which is nice for him. We'll see if he discards something important like maybe a Justicar. But he does have Alex Straw, so that's important as well. Gets rid of Grom, which, I mean, it'll limit his ability to kill his opponent, but still should be fine here for Sleepy Shaman.
Yeah, I mean, would have put next turn lethal up, but he may have that anyway. And he's just armoring up here with Bash to the face, armor up. And now what happens to the Shaman, unfortunately, if the Shaman is, he has to start defending as well, because he's facing what is probably a lethal next turn from his side. As we can see, it's actually 1 off, but
Right.
3 off.
So unfortunately, the Grom won't provide any sort of lethal here from Sleepy Shaman. But yeah, so this is what he was, playing around, right? Is the the Doomhammer into the rock biter right away, or maybe his opponent has something like lava burst, lava shock, lightning bolt, or something crazy like that. So that's why he saw the bash there.
It's actually going to be really close with this though.
Right, but he does have the Alex Straza. I wonder if you use it here. No, he only healed for 3, so maybe not.
I think because you armor up for 2 anyway. He may.
Ooh, that's a pretty big card.
Now, so.
Do you even revenge here just to grab the card?
Right?
Oh, is it lethal?
Off.
Oh, it is lethal with the Death Bite. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to be game, and SleepyShaman takes game number 1 in a crazy game there actually.
Yeah, and Harrison just provide. You can see the damage that Doomhammer was going to do the second time around. That would have been the first one. That would have been the win almost certainly with the repeated damage and so on. Killing that, putting the firepower on the board, just giving him enough to get over the finishing line. And you can see how dangerous that was going to be, even on the second wave, with that Warlock hero power filling things up. So you do have to finish those games quickly as the warrior when you do get that moment to attack.
By the way, I totally forgot how quickly MieGod plays. Gonna have to adjust our tempo casting MieGod games because he plays really quickly. I was starting to go off on anecdotes and telling stories, and MieGod's like, no, we're going. We're gonna play this game.
Yeah, and Sleepy's not a slow player himself, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, we've seen a lot of players Valera played well last game, but I've seen Valera games in the past where he played too quickly and kind of screwed up essentially by playing too quickly. But these players, you don't really typically expect them to make mistakes because of the speed with which they play.
So, Reno Lock versus what looks like Reno Lock.
Yep, it's going to be the matchup here. But they don't know what each other's playing. You're allowed to switch up your decks after the first round. I actually don't remember if both players play Reno in their first round or in the group stages. So they might have an inkling of what their opponent might bring. But going to be a really difficult matchup to navigate, this mirror matchup right here. One thing to keep in mind is that we have a pretty clear indication from MieGod's hand that it's going to be the OTK variant, whereas we don't see that quite yet from SleepyShaman. And in fact, with the Fugin in hand, it might indicate that it's not.
Yeah, that Faces Manipulator, sort of the giveaway, and the brand's like the extra giveaway as well, although that's played in more of the versions. Gives you extra chance to just copy your stuff and smash in the face. Sleepy's, like you say, he looks like he's got the more controlling version.
Actually, I think I vaguely remember SleepyShaman playing Reno Lock, but it had Power Overwhelming, but not the combo. I think I remember Power Overwhelming, but it might have been the combo pieces were on the bottom of the deck. But that could have been for something just for being able to trade with smaller minions or potentially for Shadow Flame. So he's looking at this Power Bomb. He probably has another one in his deck, and we'll see what he goes for. I mean, got a pretty heavy hand, so he may want the Power Overwhelming just for something to put on an owl or to. The problem is he can't tap right now, which is kind of frustrating. Because you get the card in your hand from the. Is he thinking of Power Overwhelming right now? You can't Power Overwhelming your opponent's thing. Maybe he's bluffing the Soulfire, I guess. Yeah, that's a bluff. Yeah, he doesn't do that. He knows what he's doing here. And that would be very overpowered if he could just use a one-man assassinate, right? Yeah, wouldn't it be good? Warrior has that card, of course, but yeah. That's about all Warrior gets sometimes. Alright, so 417 comes on the board. Unfortunately, it's going to get immediately out, I assume. And going to turn into... I mean, you say unfortunately, and obviously it's unfortunate for the Drake, but that's the owl gone. Which could have multiple targets later on, I suspect. Right. I mean, there's targets later on, but if you can do 16 damage with 2 mana, you should probably... Sure, you have to do it, right? Yeah. But it's not exactly something that's devastating either in the matchup. But nothing's going to be devastating apart from one turn kill. It's going to be a really grindy match. All right. Well, just all this value coming from this brand here. Yeah, I mean, forcing out the owl, you kind of have to owl in that situation. Though it might have come down anyway, but yeah, he does get a couple of cards here. He gets the Mortal Claw. I think he has 10 cards in his hand, so therefore he can't... Yeah, he needs to play coin here and something. He can't coin tap either, so both players having problems, I think he just coined. Yeah, he coined into nothing because he was going to overdraw. So yeah, both players having problems. I mean, this is kind of what can happen with this matchup, right? It's just There's not too much to do. Both players trying to play defensively, so you get in this situation where you have too many cards. You don't want to play anything out. Like SleepyShaman here, I mean, it seems like it's a good idea to play that Sylvanas, but he probably wants to, get that owl used in a different situation.
Yeah, Sludge Belcher looks like a card here that might not get better value later, but then that defends against a combo at some point, so maybe he wants to save that for much later in the match.
I think Sylvanas is still okay because you get out. You might be able to get Thaddeus out later, and if your opponent owls now, he doesn't have the Thaddeus later, and if he uses BGH on Thaddeus, then your Dr. Boom has more value. So I think this ends up being okay.
So he's going to Implosion here. See where he stands.
Ooh, that is very unfortunate.
Your two guys.
Yeah, that is just extremely unfortunate here because if you roll for 3, first of all, there's more imps, and also you only have to run in your Dark Peddler. But as it stands, it's pretty awkward.
So he's chosen to basically trust that SleepyShaman doesn't have anything crazy to do here. The Sylvanas can't die in a lot of circumstances, so and Hellfire would clear the board. So he's chosen to go face there.
And keep in mind, I mean, there's a lot of burst in MieGod's hand. On 9 mana, he has 12 damage. On 4 mana, he has 8 damage. So, I mean, he's looking at that and saying, I'm just going to pressure you down. And this is kind of like, how you deal with Reno sometimes, right? Is you pressure them early, make sure the Reno comes out early, and then from there you can kind of do the second push.
Mm-hmm. How do you prioritize a turn like this when you've got 70 seconds to decide what on earth you're going to do here?
Well, the biggest problem here is that you kind of want to, play some more threats because you don't really want to play defensively already because you might consider that your opponent might be playing, an OTK variant, in which case that Sludge Belcher is extremely valuable. Same thing with the Defender of Argus. So, and you can see that SleepyShaman can't, tap either, so that's kind of an issue.
And he is prioritizing not playing that Sludge Belcher.
Right.
So he's decided he's going to save that for when he's in danger of being comboed, I think. Because that was like the obvious instinctive play is just put your Sludge down, defend your face there, and defend your Sylvanas as well.
Exactly.
But he's committed that turn to just not playing the Sludge Belcher until he thinks it's time.
Right, and this Thorson is extremely scary. There, as we see the cameraman come up behind MieGod, and so we can see for just 6 mana, there's a 12 damage burst right now, and if ever Power Whelming gets drawn, it's even more so. So gonna have to be this Defender of Argus and the kill on this Thorson. You don't want massive combos being 5 mana or what have you.
And that's a nice solution to all the problems he had that turn as well. Protects it to combo, kills the Thorson quite efficiently, so also gets a couple of cards out of his hand, which he'll be pleased about. He can now go back to drawing millions of cards again.
Alright, so now that SleepyShaman has somewhat stabilized here, he's not really in danger of dying, at least this turn, and he was kind of on the back foot for a little bit there. How do we look at this game right now? Basically both players having problems, keeping cards in hand.
I think we still have to factor in the value that Brand got for MieGod early on.
Right.
It did get rid of that owl, it did draw a couple of cards, so he has more stuff still to come than Sleepy.
Right, but a lot of it's burst, though. I mean, the Twisting Nether you can't really use, the Harrison. You don't really want to use Harrison on Jaraxxus because you're going to overdraw, you're going to mill yourself, essentially. So that's kind of just a 5/4 for 4, basically a Lost Tall Strider. Sludge Belcher is reasonable, and then you have, Hellfire, Shadow Flame, Twisting Nether, all the stuff that you might use, but not really. And then you have your combo pieces. So right now, SleepyShaman has the more dense hand, if you will.
Yeah, he has the better hand, but I do think that the early game, if SleepyShaman doesn't get going soon, the early game means that MieGod will draw into better stuff. That's where I was going with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the brand will pay off by his deck being full of better cards later. But it's definitely, at the moment, Sleepy...
Wow, so this might be... This might be good if he can live this turn.
Does he live this turn, though?
Wait, he doesn't live this turn, does he? Wait, I think he doesn't, actually. Because with the Hellfire picked 11. Up, there's 12 from that 6 damage combo. It's actually 1 mana off lethal, I believe. 1 mana off.
4, 8...
Yeah, so there's 12 with the Arcane Golem Faceless plus
Isn't that a normal
Soulfire
mana
from
Soulfire, or am
6
I
mana.
misunderstanding?
It's a 0 mana Soulfire. It's a 2 mana Arcane Golem and a 4 mana Faceless.
Right.
So it's 6 mana for 12 damage, and then the Hellfire is an extra 3, which would be lethal if he had 10 mana.
If you had 10 mana. So next turn will be lethal, but Sleepy will know the situation he's in here. So he's got that Sludge Belcher that he's nurtured all game.
Wow, and the tempo heal bot essentially, it only healed for 2, so that's got to send alarm bells running off.
I was going to say, yeah, Sleepy now knows what's going on here.
Immediately,
something that's been apparent as well. He's used all the time in MieGod's turn as well.
right.
He's not blinked once. Like normally, Sleepy's kind of laid back in his opponent's turn, but
He's a sleepy shaman.
he's struggling here. He's having to plan everything. There's so many permutations here.
So, I mean, the immediate play that I see right here is you go for the Sludge Belcher, you're power whelming your defender because you need to start clearing stuff. You clear off this slime and you play a 6/6. I don't think you can really Siphon Soul anything. I guess you could if you were that desperate, but you can't really play the Sludge Belcher anyway, so
I think,
if you do that.
yeah, I think he knows the magnitude of this problem he's got now as well.
Mm-hmm.
That heal bot being a pretty big giveaway.
Yeah, so it looks like he's going to do the play that I did. And actually going to play, I think you just make a 6/6, right? It's just bigger. It seems like it's not, mana efficient, right? But at the same time...
Yeah, it's not mana efficient, but if it was 4 mana 6/6, you'd play it, so why not play it as a 2 mana 6/6?
Exactly. And is there some sort of lethal here? There's a Dark Bomb now. Is there some sort of crazy lethal? The problem is he can't Hellfire and Dark Bomb and do all the other stuff. MieGod immediately tapped, so apparently he's been counting this entire time. But I guess you tap because you can just use the Dark Bomb for 2 and it does the same thing as Hellfire anyway?
Yeah, he's just clearing the way, I think.
Right.
He knows that he knows there's not going to be much more taunt. He's seen the defender, he's seen the Sludge Belcher. How much more taunt realistically can Arena deck have? Maybe one more? Maybe a Sun Fury Protector?
Right. And, obviously SleepyShaman, he's, valuing this slime here and I think you play Reno just for the bigger body. You can...
Yeah, it's more, also get more mana out as well, yeah.
He might play the heal bot just so he can mind control tech and get 2 guys in the field.
I think he's adding up how close he is to lethal as well here.
But I think he's just dead. Hellfire, and then, yeah, I see the milk immediately coming out of MieGod. That's going to be it. Hellfire into Arcane Golem, Faceless, Soulfire, and MieGod takes game number 2.
Yeah, and just having the advantage there of having the combo, I think, which meant that Sleepy had to play not just defensively, but defensively against things he can't see all game. Like when you're playing against Druid, you play against combo, sort of the basic version of that. But there he's having to play against all sorts of
Dark Peddler stuff.
Combos. Right. He doesn't even know which he's defending against. And that's a really hard matchup for that reason, I think.
Excuse me.
So.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, you don't know if there's stuff from Dark Peddler. You don't know if what he's picked up, and there could be all sorts of combos. And unfortunately, it was just enough to be able to kill off SleepyShaman in that scenario. But yeah, it's going to be tied 1-1. We're not going to see a 3-0 like we saw last series. And we have Shaman and Warrior remaining for MieGod, whereas we have Warlock and Druid from SleepyShaman. We do know, obviously, that it's the aggressive Shaman, but on the other hand, we also know that it's going to be the Arena Lock for SleepyShaman here. Did I say?
Yeah.
Okay,
really interesting. This is one of the criticisms that will come sometimes from this format. Is like it's almost a guessing game at this point. If you pick right, you get a big 2-1 lead here.
So, this is Control Warrior versus Arena Lock. And we actually saw once in the team story a team pick, I think it was Nicholas Love Jabu. They sent him in to play Control Warrior versus Arena Lock. And the prevailing theory, at least my theory, is that Arena Lock just wins this matchup because you play Draxus and GG. Yes. However, if you're able to if you have things like Gorehowl in your deck, and obviously that Harrison is pretty helpful if Draxus ever hits the field, but if you have an extra Gore Howl, that can really go a long way in getting that extra damage in, and you only have to have a normal Grom activator, not just a Cruel Taskmaster, which you would need to kill your opponent from 15. You need the Cruel Taskmaster, some sort of weapon, obviously the standard ones being the Fire War Axe and the Deathbite, and then, use Grom plus Cruel Taskmaster and kill them once they Jiraxes. But, minus the Gore Howl, it can be difficult to get all those cards in hand. In particular, to save your Cool Taskmaster that long, because it can be very, very useful in, just kind of controlling the board in a different turn.
Yeah. And the reason that you have that theory, presumably, is because basically Warrior trades 1-for-1 with most of the things it does. And Warlock has that hero power that just says, okay, you trade 1-for-1 all day, I'll just draw cards again. And trade 1-for-1 with that, good luck.
Do you think this is a giveaway that there's Harrison in MieGod's hand?
I don't actually. I think there might be a giveaway that's in his deck, but
right.
He did discard the Swampoos at the end of the last game to that Soulfire as well. So maybe Sleepy will just think it doesn't matter, he's just got these.
Well, Acidic Swampoos, you have to fill your deck with something, right? So I can totally see that being a normal card. To include.
I don't think he gives away it's in his hand, but he'll know it's in the deck, I should think. But you can't afford to mess around as Warrior. I think Sleepy will give him credit for you've only going to save that for Jiraxus. That's not coming anytime soon, unless maybe Yoji Hao. And yeah, I think he'll just respect that as a tempo play. So I don't think it's a giveaway, but he will have noted it that it was thrown away.
So this is an interesting play. SleepyShaman could have used Mortal Coil or Defender of Arcus there. Although, I guess he's already played Such Welter out. He had nothing else to do on curve, and having the tempo there is pretty nice. So
it's interesting. I wonder what he's saving the Mortal Coil for. Just another time when it will be useful, I guess. But
I think he just wants to put a lot of pressure on his opponent by playing out this Thorson. And what you're doing is you're forcing your opponent to do nothing, right? He had, speaking of MieGod, he had to shield block and shield slam there, and that's getting rid of a shield slam, and it's forcing your opponent not to play any minions, which is kind of nice. On the other hand, it's going to be hard to kill off this shield maiden, so
I guess Shredder's really good brawl protection as well, so you want to hold on to it as long as you dare. So that's a reason, possibly. And he may pay off here, because he might get to use Immortal Coil now with this 1-2.
Ooh, but
Or he might just Implosion.
Yeah, it looks he's hovering over the Defender of Argus. Maybe I'm thinking too far in the future, but you need to have some sort of taunt in hand once you Jiraxis.
Yeah, I wonder if he knows that, and he's wondering if he's got enough taunts later. But he's already used the Sludge. This is such a tempting play, but like you say, maybe you do need to save that Defender for later.
This is interesting. So, SleepyShaman with a slight error in the sequencing there, going with the drawing the card last, but it's understandable. And we're gonna get basically the Drew the Claw Brand Bronze Beard is going to be immediately killed off by this Gore Howl off the top, and that's something you really don't want to see if you're SleepyShaman.
Yeah, that's as you've already described. That's like the way that the Warrior has a chance in this matchup. So.
It has come up pretty early, though.
He's got a decent board.
Yeah, I guess if we're going to ooze something, that's pretty good to ooze, right? But, yeah, he doesn't want to commit anything more to Brawl. He has gone away with that Gore Howl, which is kind of nice. The Justicar comes in hand, which is pretty important, because that will keep MieGod alive for a long time. And will basically elongate the game.
That Shredder was in the right place, because he's going to want to possibly... buff those two guys with Taunt later together, so you do put the Shredder away from them before chat goes wild about it not being in the middle.
Okay, so this Lothar hits the board, but there's no real way for MieGod to win the game right now, so I think that SleepyShaman isn't too concerned right now.
22 facing 7, so he has to be awake, but no, there's nothing that can kill him next turn.
The question is, does he could potentially go for just Jiraxis here.
He's just going for the crazy implosion. It's going to be absolute wrecking if he rolls well, which he has.
Well, that's a nice implosion onto that guy. But yeah, he's actually dealt a lot of damage. I mean, Sleepy Shaman going in for the very aggressive line this particular game. And the nice thing about this particular, the way he's played this game, speaking of Sleepy Shaman, is that by going for this, you're able to kind of force all of the threats of your opponent and all the removal, and that will allow you to Draxus later if it comes to that point. But right now, he's
just
really
deciding about Whirlwind here, yeah.
Yeah, or probably Revenge, but yeah. Although Revenge kills this board anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess he's worried about me.
He just decided that it was worth not getting Whirlwind because it's so far in front, or whatever. Yeah, maybe he was playing around Revenge and...
Right. Well, we're gonna test KitKat's theory here with the Armorsmith always winning Brawl. See if that can be the case, and almost corrects that Armorsmith was the last one. But pretty weak Brawl, to be honest. I mean, you're not going. I mean, it's basically a bunch of 1/1s, and I mean, MieGod kind of had to do it. Excuse me, because for obvious reasons, but.
Yeah,
mostly that he's going to die, but yeah.
This is what we said about this matchup. The reason it's so powerful for the Warlock. I mean, he hasn't really done anything particularly insane in this game, apart from a really good roll on that implosion. And look at the hands. It's just from nowhere. Wow. He's just got all those cards just because he has a hero power that keeps you topped up.
So we were right and wrong, right? I mean, we said that the Arena Lock is favored, but not for the reasons that we just saw in this game. Sleepy Shaman just basically ran over MieGod there.
Yeah, it's a deck that you have to adjust each time because each game is obviously very different because of the nature of Reno Lock having the one of everything. And that leaves you with Druid against the Shaman or the Warrior. And I mean, we know that Druid versus Warrior, assuming there's no aspirants in his Druid, is a really good matchup. If there are aspirants, it becomes a little bit more complicated.
Right, and it's almost to the point that, I mean, there are some Chinese players who are actually saying that Control Warrior is favored. I would say that you have to be running double aspirant plus Living Roots for the Warrior to be favored, but, I mean, still, those are cards, to this day being run.
I mean, you don't see much in the Western scene anymore of people playing Aspirant. It's been taken out much, but I know that when we saw the Team Story finals, everyone was still playing Aspirant. I haven't seen much of Gold Series. I don't know what the case is here.
It's been the same thing. Bunch of Aspirants and Living Roots.
Still playing Aspirants.
Yeah, and Living Roots, by the way. So,
and Living Roots as well, yeah,
exactly.
Which I know that Firebat likes and Sottle also likes in the UK.
Well, in exchange for the Aspirants, though.
Yeah, but the sort of Raven Idol is what Purple was playing, for instance, and what Show's been playing. I think I personally prefer the Raven Idol aspect as well to give you that versatility. So it'll be interesting to see what Sleepy brings here, because if anyone's taken them out, he has, and there it is, Aspirant.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. There's just so much Shaman, and you kind of have to have that guy on the board to compete in the early game. And this is looking pretty decent for Sleepy Shaman. I mean, his own hand is reasonable, but more importantly, his opponent's hand is abysmal.
Yeah, I've learned not to... I mean, I do agree with you that his opponent's hand is terrible, but I've also learned not to make assumptions about the Shaman hand too early, because it sometimes just goes top deck, game. I know a lot of decks can do that, but Shaman in particular seems to be just brutal when it just gets on that roll of top decks.
Yeah, but when it's Tunnel Trog into, Totem Golem into... I don't know, Whirling Mathematic, and then stuff like that. Then every single top deck is guaranteed to be damaged, and you've already taken a bunch of damage, so that can be pretty problematic.
Yeah, and letting Druid, I mean, he's going to have that healing if needed. It'll probably be card draw at this rate. He's going to have some things that are sticky on board. He's got card advantage. He hasn't taken any damage, and the armor's relevant as well later on.
Right.
Easy to underestimate the value of that one little armor per turn. So this is going to be the knowledge to see what we draw play.
Right, and MieGod actually had a pretty good, way to kill that the Shredder last turn with the Lava Shock and the Earth Shock. And sometimes people don't, they save the. Oh wow, that is a very big card right now. Going to be able to clear out the board is Sleepy Shaman, and he's still on 20 health, which is pretty decent. I mean, obviously Shaman can go pretty nuts. But has the board, is throwing 6 damage to his opponent every single turn. So I think Sleepy Shaman is looking pretty good in this match.
And one great thing about when you're playing against Shaman, he may even be able to afford to heal, not draw the cards here. Because if you do get the board, the Shaman's kind of committed to smashing you in the face. It can do occasional trades, but it can't do a whole bunch of trades. So this Ancient can... Oh, okay. Who cares? Like, he's got Swipe now, so now he can heal if he wishes.
Right, and I mean the thing is he can draw with the Wrath while probably being able to kill something, so that's kind of important as well.
It's a
Didn't
second
actually.
slight ordering mistake there.
Right, I mean it's kind of you don't really think of Shadow Boxer. It's one of the things you don't actually think of when you're trying to get something off of it. It's usually the cards that can mess up with your mana, and
Yes.
something like the
Mana
Mana
Wraith
Wraith, and
yeah.
I don't think that the Nerval Web Lord affects the Ancient of
Actually,
Water.
no. I guess he did it the right way around because I was thinking about Doomsday, but he it would have been so destructive to get the Mana Wraith. That would have
Exactly.
cost him the game if it was Mana Wraith. So yeah, he did do it the right way. It's just it turned out to be to be wrong by accident, but it was the
Right.
right play.
So we have a lot of damage on the board for actually both players on the board for Sleepy Shaman, but in the hand for MieGod, but not really enough. I mean, he has a maximum of 16 damage, even if he goes all face here, and we see a ton of damage in the hand of Sleepy Shaman. So this is looking really bad for MieGod.
Yeah, and the fact that Sleepy's going to have the choice to go either 4/6 or charge, depending on his top deck, is going to make a difference as well.
Right, and
Which is going to allow
MieGod's
him
saying
to.
that if I use Lava Burst on any of these minions, my opponent's just gonna play more minions, and I'm
Yep.
gonna die anyway. So I like this play. Unfortunately, it's not gonna work out for him. It looks like is that lethal here? Just looking like it. Yeah, that's going to be it. It's going to be exact lethal for Sleepy Shaman, and he advances to the round of 8. Unfortunately for MieGod, he is out of the tournament.
Yeah, and really good series there from both players. There wasn't much to fault on either side, I don't think. Sleepy's preparation, that was a very versatile lineup that he had.
And the nice thing is that his Paladin got banned out. We haven't seen too many Paladin bans here, and by threatening the Murloc Paladin, that might have helped him quite a bit.